Hey, hi, Mike.
Hello.
So, you're the creator of Sails.js, right?
I am.
Tell us a little bit more about Sails.js. What is it for the people that are not that well known about JavaScript?
Absolutely. So Sails.js is a framework a lot like Python's Django or Ruby's Rails or like Cake PHP or Zend framework, but it's for Node.js. It's built on top of Express, which is a kind of standard go-to-market sort of low-level framework for Node, but it adds an ORM, which lets you talk to the database, as well as a bunch of other kind of convention over configuration features. It's been around for 3-ish years now. Since 2013, the community has grown a lot, and we're about to do our next release.
Were you expecting this kind of impact on the Node.js community when you launched Sails.js?
Oh, not at all. No, I was basically just trying to get by with the tools that we had, right? And so I quit my job that I was at, I guess in 2012 or so, and I kind of ran off to do this whole Node.js thing. I'd gotten into it really early because of kind of my interest in chat and some of the work I was doing, and yeah, it was kind of like, in order to really just, and maybe this is just a testament to my inadequacy as a developer, but I needed to have a way to do stuff that I was used to in frameworks like Grails or Cake PHP. And so Sails is really just a product of trying to do that and then trying to plug in when I couldn't hire Node.js developers. It was finding people that had MVC experience but were able to apply that to Node because they already knew JavaScript.
So, to make it easier for some people to understand when they should use Sails.js, what do you think are the kind of projects that are ideal for Sails.js? Like, this is the natural fit for Sails.
Gotcha. So I'd say the hands down the big opportunity when you're building something with Sails is if you have something which is completely real time, where every feature in the app needs to be able to update when people make changes without you having to refresh your browser or close your native app or whatever. That's kind of on one really far extreme, and it was designed to be able to support that use case. From that, though, we've used it for everything that you would do with anything you would do with PHP, right? So, we've built e-commerce websites with it. We've done kind of marketing websites. We've done internal dashboards. We've done PhoneGap applications, native mobile applications. We've done Chrome extensions. So it's pretty versatile. I mean, it's kind of like the lowest. It's just as low level as any other framework. Some of the cooler things we've seen actually from the community was a project that was a flu tracker where you could actually see, based on like analyzing these tweets in real time, the flu moving across Canada. And so you had this little heat map, and you could kind of see like what cities to avoid if you're looking to avoid the flu.
We were starting to see a lot of questions for you in the Twitter channel. I'm not sure if you're seeing them as well.
Yeah.
One of them was you just mentioned that real-time applications that need to be connected to the backend and the frontend in real time. Those are the kind of things where Sails.js shine. How do you manage real-time behind the scenes? Do you use a thing like Socket.io, WebSockets, Ajax long pooling? What do you use?
Great question. Yeah, and I should have brought that up before. So, not only are we based on Express, Sails is actually composed of 20 different what we call hooks. And these are basically these little modules that can plug into the Sails framework or be unplugged. And so by default, you get these 20 hooks. One of those hooks is the sockets hook, and that actually just wraps Socket.io from Guillermo Rauch and now maintained by Automatic. So that's what we do. So you can always replace that with your own socket functionality if you prefer, some of the other options like Sock.js. But we're actually in the next release, in the official version 11 release, we're going to be upgrading to Socket.io 1.0 and bundling some kind of cleanup around that and some more modern features.
As I said, there's a lot of questions from the community, so I'm going to start with some of those. One of those right now is, do you think that we can replace Sails.js if I already have a Django application or a Rails application? Do you think that I can go from Django or from Rails or from .NET to Sails.js and do the same application with the same level of versatility, of really good features, etc.?
So can you? Absolutely. Should you? I don't know, right? I mean, so it kind of comes down to like, is it worth your time to rewrite something? Now, it's sort of more of a theoretical question. Absolutely. With Sails, what you've got is a very kind of, you can do anything you can do in Node, right? You can still require npm modules. You can write, custom JavaScript, do whatever. It's just sort of a structural convention, right? It's so that if you're making an app, you're not making the same features and having to like reinvent the wheel to accomplish the same task you've already implemented 10 times. So if you're familiar with something like .NET MVC or Rails or Django, you'll recognize immediately what's going on, the structure of a Sails app.
There's a guy that says that he has never used Ruby on Rails before. So for people that are unfamiliar with traditional model view controller frameworks, how does Sails.js work and why is it better?
That's a great question, actually, and I'm excited that someone asked that. So it's not magic, right? So I mean, the fundamental thing that's going on with, when you think about, when we're talking about MVC, and we're talking about server-side MVC, it's kind of this weird, label that's been placed on something that, whether it's truly MVC or not, whatever, but everyone calls it that. So you usually have just a folder called models, and in that folder, you have these files which basically specify what your database tables will look like. Or if you're using Mongo, in our case with Sails, you can, it'll be your Mongo collections. Then your controllers are basically just these little buckets of functions, like JavaScript functions, that run when people hit a URL on your server. So, if you hit Platzi.com and you go to /favicon.io, then you're going to get a little favicon image. But if you hit maybe /live, you're going to get an HTML page with a live stream. And if you hit I don't know, I haven't sniffed around your website too much, but users.json, courses, that's better. Yeah, courses.json or something, you're gonna get some JSON data. And that's really all a server does. MVC on the server side and Rails and all these things are really just kind of like pre-configured kits to get you going. But you're always just basically writing that it all starts with a URL gets hit by a request and you send something back.
So I have a question here from David Perez at Terox. He's asking, what's the major difference between Method.js and Sails.js?
Awesome.
Or which are the differences?
So this ties in really well to a question I saw a little bit ago too about can you use Angular with it. So Meteor is a framework that has a front-end web component and a back-end component that runs on your server. So you might have some server that lives on Heroku, and it will be running part of Meteor, and then the web browser will be running the other part, and they kind of work together. And Meteor really kind of has a strong opinion about what you should do on your front end, right? On the browser code. Sails realizes that I am way too dumb to try to do that for you. I don't have any, the front end is very complicated, and there's so many different ways you can do it. You can write it in Backbone or Ember or Angular, and who am I to tell you, right? Also, if you ever tried to go into an enterprise situation or try to, if you ever done, tried to sell somebody and doing a project for them, you just really can't go in and say, we're going to completely throw away everything this organization has ever done and reinvent the wheel. So what I was kind of figured out early on with Sails was that we were going to focus on one thing and do it really well. And that's on being the back-end framework that allows you to be a great front-end developer, build HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or native iOS, native Android, whatever your thing is, and then be empowered by not having to mess with this sort of opaque ball of wax.
I have a question from Jose Andrades. He's asking, why can't I do model inheritance in Sails.js? And before answering that, can you explain what model inheritance is?
No, that's why it's not in Sails. So I mean, I can guess, and I've seen this before, and I kind of get what's going on. I think, honestly, here's a little secret, okay? I never really, with Rails, there's this whole thing that people say a model will has many, or it has one, or it has and belongs to many. And honestly, I never really understood any of that. I have no idea what that even means. I understand what is happening behind the scenes at a technical level, and I understand what a JSON object that has a property called friends, which is an array of other JSON objects, looks like. And I really get that, and I understand that needs to map to SQL. So model inheritance is one of those things that's just super puzzling for me. So it's not that there's anything wrong with that approach. It's just that I've never that's not how my brain works for some reason. So. Something that I think is very interesting for the future, and I do plan on doing, is support for basically if you have a user and then that user has, let's say, a property called, I don't know, desktop, right? That desktop association, that attribute, might be an array of, you might have a model called file and a model called directory, and you kind of want that polymorphic ability to have both of those types of things together. That I can absolutely see the use case for and understand, and I would love to hear more about why model inheritance would be a step forward, or how we could implement it.
In your opinion, what stack in the backend frontend is the best to work with Sails.js? Well, in backend it's obviously going to be Node.js and Sails, I'm going to guess. But what's the best stack frontend-wise to work with Sails?
Great question. Hard question. But think of Sails as, in your application server, as like a sandwich, where it's, Sails is the middle of your sandwich, all covered in mayonnaise and stuff, and then you've got, like, on one side you have your database, or maybe many different databases or applications that you're talking to, third-party APIs like Twitter, Facebook, GitHub, stuff like that. And then over here on the other side you've got your front end. So really, Sails can be a nice hub for all of these. But I'm dodging the question. So, like, the actual my particular poison of choice for front-end framework right now is Angular, not because I feel like that's the right answer for everybody. I've heard really good things about both React and Ember lately, and there's a really neat project called the Sane Stack, S-A-N-E, which is Sails, Node, and Ember. And that it has a little command line tool where you can actually generate your Ember stuff at the same time as your Sails controllers, and it's seems pretty neat. So I would definitely recommend looking around for your front end framework and picking what works best for you. If you're even using a web framework at all, right? You might be building like a toaster. I don't know.
I love the part where you say that this is basically a reaction, that it wasn't really an idea, but it's been successful and it's pretty big. A lot of people is using it in the open source community. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How do you actually make a project succeed? Because we go to GitHub and it's there. A lot of people is downloading Sails, is using Sails. What's your secret sauce to get users to an open source project?
That's well, so it depends on the project, I think. So I've made Sails was actually the second open source module I ever made.
Really?
Yeah, the first was called Alcohol. And it was for the Groovy programming language, and it was a date library, and it's called Alcohol because it made your dates prettier, if that. But
so in case you guys missed the joke, he made a framework called Alcohol to make dates for Groover, right?
Groovy, yeah.
Groovy. Sorry. So it's like jQuery UI for dates, but in Groovy. And it's called Alcohol because it makes your dates prettier.
Senoritas, margaritas, something like that. I'm working on it.
So Alcohol also, I believe it happened while you were working in college or going through all these projects of research and everything, right?
It was real early on, and it made it. I mean, it was a good step for me, but the big thing was NPM. NPM it's so easy to publish an open source module to NPM that when it was when it was time to publish Sails the first time, it was just like, it took like 15 seconds, and you just type npm publish. It's amazing. So that was a lot of it. As far as it being successful, I have no idea. I think that the part of it was the name. It was familiar to people and made sense what it was immediately if you'd worked with something like Rails or Grails.
So it comes from there. So if you use Rails, this is Rails in Node.js, Sails.
Exactly. Easy to understand, right?
I should have done that with Platzi and Mejorando la Ley. That's cool. That's fine anyway.
We won't say that. We won't say anything on air. Yeah.
Yeah. I have several questions from the audience right here. One very interesting from Alex Ramirez. What can we expect from Sails.js in the future with ECMAScript 6? ECMAScript 6. Jesus, I still have that problem. What can we expect from Sails.js in the future with ECMAScript 6 almost here? Have you had any thoughts about ECMAScript 6?
Definitely. Definitely. Not a lot of, it's not like something I lay awake thinking about very often, but lay awake thinking about a lot of other things with Sails, but not that particular thing. I think that it's really cool, and I think that it's great that there's been like this sort of renaissance with JavaScript, and people are starting to realize how. And I mean, most of the people watching the show probably already kind of knew what was up, but like people that were deep into the Java space and just kind of discounted JavaScript are starting to come back around and realize like, wow, this is like a real language, and it's okay, it's not that great, but we have to deal with it, and everyone speaks it. It's awesome. So I think that the part about ECMAScript 6 that is most interesting to me is the module system. The idea of making kind of just more clearly defined, like not common JS, not required, AMD and on the front end, but something that's uniform is interesting. I don't let it take too much of my focus right now because it's not affecting any of the work that we're doing. Right? It's not like it's going to keep me from building an app.
Okay, what do you think of React, the Facebook's framework for front-end development?
So I haven't used React myself, so I'm not the expert. I have talked to a couple of guys that worked on the project. One of whom was Paul O'Shaughnessy, and he's a good guy, and he's got a nice wife who's keeps him in line, and I think you can trust that guy. So, yeah.
Okay, no, it's because we are hearing so much about React, and we have this suspicion that it may be the future of front-end app development. Maybe.
That sounds great. Yeah, I mean, I need to try it. I need to sit down. I mean, with Angular, I was always a huge Backbone guy, right? And I finally just...
All our platform is built on Backbone and Marionette.
Yeah.
And we really love Backbone. Angular is just so opinionated. It's like, once you go Angular, you literally cannot go back without rewriting everything. And that's what they're going to do with Angular 2.0.
Right.
But let's not talk about bad things. Let's focus on the great stuff. And going to great stuff, there was a chasm in the Node.js community between Node.js and io.js. What do you think of that?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's one of those like it's one of those chasms that appears during construction, maybe. And so, like, someone was building some stuff and they blew up a big hole in the ground, and now it's just an accident. They're gonna patch that back up. That's the way I think about that. io.js is not a threat to Node.js and the ecosystem we've all worked so hard to build up. io.js is a way for some really important, smart people to say, hey, we're serious about taking our opinion seriously. And I think that everybody involved has been pretty cool about doing what they can to kind of make things right.
Yeah. I have the last three questions. The first is, what do you think is the future of front-end and back-end development on the web? Where do you see the future of front-end development and the future of back-end development?
Let's say that you're also advising people who are choosing their career right now. Like, should they really target being front-ends? How about the job opportunities there and the challenges? Is it going to be entertaining or is it going to be complicated? Like,
gotcha. So,
what would you say there?
Yeah. So the first part of that, like, as far as where's the money going to be? Front end, absolutely. Back end is going to be completely commoditized, and I have complete confidence in this. That if you think about what happened with hardware servers, and you think about what happened with even like platform as a service, like with Heroku or Elastic Beanstalk or Modulus, you're able to deploy to these things, and used to people would have rooms with like these big computers everywhere, and they would go manually maintain them, and some people still do it. Obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be able to use cloud servers, but that same step forward is going to happen with the backend, and I don't think it's going to be through the traditional backend as a service model. I think it's going to be through just repeated open source innovation by our whole kind of community.
That's really interesting.
I think we're getting there. We're getting very close. So definitely focus on the front end, I would say. And I mean, knowing the back end is really important as far as like understanding what it is. But knowing how to do it, there'll always be work there, but it's not where I think the biggest push forward will be.
No. And it makes total sense. Right now we're moving to a world in which most of the innovation is being done on the front end, being web or mobile development, because the backend is the same if you have a mobile app or if you have a website, but the technologies on front end are vastly different. Right. The way the users use that's where you should focus. And most of the backend maybe fixable some other way. That's a really cool theory.
Yeah, and we'll see it proven out, right? But I think that as far as the other side of this, like what are you going to enjoy more? I really like all of it. I mean, I've never really found something in development that, other than just like what we all hate, which is finding a bug that was our fault. I think that we, if you're looking at, if you're working with JavaScript and you think it's interesting and you're okay with it, then definitely become a front-end programmer if you aren't already, and learn how to work with HTML and CSS, or with with something like a native app, and then you can very quickly, if you're an expert in that, turn that around and become an expert in the backend, because the backend is just going to get easier and easier, but it is fun too. So hard to say.
Cool. R. Bejarano F was asking, what about the Sails.js documentation? Doesn't seem that great.
They were saying like, how about the documentation? That's also one of the most, I believe, was one of the most complicated challenges
it seems
of
that
every
people
single
have
company.
It seems that people have a hard time starting with Sails.js because they feel a lack of documentation and a path to start using Sails.js technology.
That's a very fair criticism. So we've kind of completely redone the docs as of like August of last year, right? And a lot of it I ended up actually writing myself for the first time. A lot of it before was kind of just stuff we had stitched together from the community helping out, and then stuff that we had laying around, just because we were really busy. Since I've kind of taken a step back from the front lines of dealing with clients on an everyday basis for Balderdash and the services business, it's been really great for me to be able to kind of see what it's like for people that are coming into sales for the first time. Something that I think is going to be really helpful, especially if you're using Angular, is a new series by Earl Nathan called, if you remember the Activity Overlord series, if you're already a sales user, it's a lot like that, but it's been updated for the latest version of Sails, and it actually uses kind of a practical combination of single page apps and server rendered views. So you actually have a couple of different single page apps, one for the logged in experience and one for the logged out experience. It covers high level concepts like how do you deal with SEO in that situation. And I looked over every line of code in that myself with Earl. And I know it's good stuff. So definitely check out those videos. He's been releasing them slowly for just a little under a couple weeks now.
Cool, excellent. There's a lot of people that are asking us if you would like to do a full Sails.js course to fix a problem like that. If you guys are interested in a Sails.js course, and we are exploring the idea of building a course around the future of front-end app development and back-end app development. And I would love to have Sails.js as one of the core parts of that future, and teaching people about how to create the next generation of app development. So let's talk more about it if you like.
Yeah, I'd love to be involved. I may need some help from everybody. But
obviously, we have everything ready. You just need to sit down and do your best. And we will help you with video, with audio, with text, with students, with etc. Everybody went crazy on the chat right now. Everybody's like, yes, we need that course right now. Start recording it. All right. Not right now.
It's not as easy, but eventually we'll probably get back to Michael and see what we can do together.
And last question. I had a question. Daniel Cross. Daniel Cross is asking us, for us newbies, tell us more about the magic that we can do with Sails.js. What are the typical examples of incredible applications done really fast thanks to Sails.js?
So one of the biggest wins you're going to get is if you have with Sails, you can auto-generate a REST API, right? So basically, if you think about what you need, if you're going to have like the to-do MVC app, right? Or if you're going to have I would show it if I could. I don't think I have it online anywhere. If you look around my GitHub someplace, I'll post a link later. There's a tutorial that I do where it's like a bunch of cursors, right? And so you have everybody who connects to the page can move their mouse around, and you can see everyone else's cursor move in real time. That's all done without any backend code. And the reason why is because Sails has this sort of baseline built-in assumption when you generate a controller and a model by default, right? And that's that if you have that model called cursor and you have a controller called cursor, even if they're both empty, what you're really trying to say is that you wanted to generate an API. And in like something like Rails or Django or whatever, that would be a scaffold, because that was what people used to do, like when those frameworks originally came out. Sails is just like a little bit lazier, right? But in a way where I think it ends up being better for those of us that like to build front-end stuff, because what you get is a sortable, searchable, paginatable API that you don't have to write code for. As far as like modifying that, you can toss policies on it. You can, which are like helpers in Rails, or like they're like middleware basically. Lets you do access control. You can use lifecycle callbacks on the model. But what the where that gets you is a very, very quick prototype stage. So it's just like scaffolds. When you're ready to go past that, all you do is you need to override or just write new actions in your controller. And so that process, I think, is one of the big wins. As far as the real-time magic behind that, all we're really doing behind the scenes is there's some built-in blueprint actions. That's what we call them. They're just actions, right? They're little functions that run when you hit a URL. And those functions do we call resourceful pub sub. So if I'm going to create a cursor, I'm also going to publish that it was created. And the people that are going to be able to hear about that are the same people that were initially able to fetch the list of cursors. So if you're able to get some data for your page, the idea with blueprints is that you might want to hear about it when it changes. And so when it changes, you get notified. And so it just kind of updates in real time. That's kind of the magic part. But all that's optional.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you very much, Mike. Remember, his Twitter account is Mike R. McNeil. Please follow him immediately. He is going to be tweeting all the links that he just talked about, like his GitHub.
And search Sails.js, go to GitHub, check the project, check part of his work. I like what he's saying about how the API should be made faster, and some of the stuff that Sails is doing. So we'll keep you posted on everything he's doing, and I hope we have him in the show again sometime.
I think appreciate you joining. Definitely great questions. If you are interested in Sails, go to sails.js.org. You can join our Google group. You can hit us up on Twitter. There's a Facebook page, all that sort, whatever your favorite method of communication is. There's also an IRC channel. It's hashtag Sails.js on Freenode. And one other thing, if you are interested in doing things like encrypting passwords, or communicating with Facebook or with GitHub, or sending emails with like Mandrill or Mailgun, or using Elasticsearch, or any of these things that aren't quite databases, I have a new project called Node Machine on node-machine.org, and there's a lot of great reusable modules there that you can just plug in, or you can publish your own, and the website automatically updates by looking at NPM. So that's kind of the next step to solve plugins.
I didn't quite catch the name. It was Node Machines.
Node-machine.
Node Machines.
Node Machine. Yeah, in singular. So Node Machine, just like one of the little guys.
You know what? Go to Google and Google Node Machine. That's what you have to do. It's ironically the second result. The first one is the NPM website.
So
go to Node Machine.
Node Machine.
Node Machine.
Node Machine. So you're basically realizing that there's a lot of products and projects over there with APIs that kind of like work like a database, but we have to connect them through another system. So you're trying to break that bridge. So like, okay, I'm going to connect to MySQL or do Mongo or do MailChimp or do Mailgun. And they should all work the same. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I like it.
All right, so there's a lot of people very thankful about what you did. They're saying, great work, Mike, congratulations. Thank you very much for doing this open source project. And yeah, on behalf of our community, thank you for Sails.js. It looks awesome. We're going to do our best to keep promoting it from now on in our show. And thank you for being here, Mike.
I appreciate it. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He is Mike R. McNeil, the creator of Sails.js. And he's also behind Node Machines right now.